Travelers have a bucket list, and on that bucket list may include all sorts of fun adventures or a little bit of R&R. On today's episode of Smart People Travelwise, my guest and I will share 10 ultimate bucket trips to take in your 40s. I'm Tenny Sumagi, your host of this award-winning podcast, coming to you from my home state of New York, the Big Apple. And it's a city that everyone should visit once in their lifetime. Before we delve into today's topic, I'd like to remind everyone, if you are watching this live, please hashtag live. And if you are watching this on replay, hashtag replay. Share where you're watching from so we can acknowledge all of you. And don't forget to catch our podcast on Facebook and YouTube. You can also listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Fire, and iHeartRadio. Or download the PHLV radio app, available on all iOS and Android devices. So my guest host today is a good friend of mine. She's a lot like me, in her 40s, and she is an editor-in-chief of a local newspaper in South Texas. Yes, she is from the Lone Star State, Texas, where everything is big, including her heart. Please give a warm welcome, or let's smash those heart buttons to our guest today, Miss Jane Kathleen Alvarez Gregorio, or AKA Kathleen Gregorio Alvarez, I should say. Hi, Kathleen.
Howdy from the Lone Star State, of course. Just wanted to say I'm so pleased and happy to be here. It's my first time to be on an award-winning podcast. So thank you for the opportunity, Tenny.
And it's an award-winning podcast, and you are an award-winning editor-in-chief. You have a lot of experience in the media industry. You are a former radio host. So this is something very comfortable in your realm of expertise and field, Kathleen. So tell our audience more about you.
About me, wow. So I wear many hats, but mainly, well, of course you have your bread and butter job, which I actually work for a medical insurance company as my regular 9 to 5, if you know what I mean. But on the side, I'm an editor-in-chief for the Crossroads of South Texas newspaper, which is a local newspaper focused on positive news here in Corpus Christi, Texas. I'm also a freelance journalist for the Corpus Christi Business News and 101corpuschristi.com, which is similar to like a tourist website full of articles of cool places to visit here in Corpus Christi. And in my past life, I was a radio DJ for the college radio station 90.1 FM KSYM in San Antonio. So anyway, I'm glad to be here. I love podcasts, and I love just being able to have a conversation about traveling. Our topic, like you mentioned, was places that we've either visited already or would love to visit as we are here in our young 40s. It's like 40 is the new 20. It's like a crossroads, because like you no longer have like the inexperience of the 20s. You have the confidence of the 40s, yet you're still young enough to be able to move around and enjoy life and still have that energy. But anyway, yes, like that's about me. That's all I can say.
And it's funny that you mentioned that 40s is the new 20s, and in your 40s, I would say in your 40s, I think this is a really great time to travel, is because we're in our 40s, we're more established in our careers, finances. We're able to afford wherever we want to travel, especially whether it's in my 20s, I would say it was about not bucket list travels, more of budgeting. Okay, because we just graduated from college, we're just starting off. 30s, you're still a little bit kind of discovering what style of traveling you want. But in your 40s, it's all like, okay, it's midpoint. I could live long or I might die tomorrow. So I have to make the best of everything. And this is what our topic is today, is we're going to discuss 10 ultimate bucket list travels that we want to do in our 40s. And I'm going to mention this, Kathleen, because I've never been to Texas. Is it true that everything is big in Texas?
Well, yeah, probably like, well, it's, I guess the idea of everything being bigger in Texas, jokingly we say it's because we have so much amazing food that even the people are bigger in Texas. But I guess in terms of things being bigger in Texas, maybe like the portion sizes, maybe like I guess the pride of Texas, um, being able to just like have a big personality, a big heart, big smiles, and just, like, I guess even like some of the food, like the huge burgers, huge nachos. If ever you come to San Antonio, we're gonna show you the biggest pizza. It's like 90-inch diameter. It's like the size of a table. I think, and then like it's called Big Lou's Pizza. And then and another place we have like the King Kong nachos. So if you're a foodie and you're looking for things that are really, really big representing Texas, we got you covered here in the culinary field.
And on my bucket list, and I guess I'll talk about
Big hair, big hat, big hair.
And all things are big Texas size. They don't say Texas size if it wasn't big, right, Kathleen?
Yes, and I think it's because Texas is it's such a big state geographically that I guess size-wise it dominates not only the United States, but a lot of people that are prominent, have come out of Texas. Politicians, celebrities, and there's something about Texas when, I guess just like New York, if you ever lived here or came from here or were born here, there's something about being from Texas or having been in Texas that kind of you feel a camaraderie with other Texans, with other people who have come from Texas or passed through here. So not everybody loves Texas. There's some people who who, I don't know, for whatever reason, we don't know why, but they didn't like it as much. But overall, if you come here, Penny, you will probably find something that you'll love about Texas.
I always find anything that I love anywhere, wherever I travel. So that's why I host a travel podcast, Kathleen, because I love travel. And there's always amazing things to do anywhere in the world, any time of the day. Now we're going to get to our bucket list, our ultimate bucket list to do in our 40s. And you talked about food. So we're going to start off with food destinations that we would like to do, or places where we want to go to in terms of where the food is at. So let's start off with you, Kathleen. What's on your bucket list when it comes to food?
Oh my gosh. So one of the places I have wanted to visit for an extended period of time is the Big Apple, New York City. And in fact, I will have that opportunity this second week of June. And I'm so grateful because I have Tenny as my personal travel agent tour guide to guide me on the culinary the best culinary experiences I could possibly find. So being in Texas and not having had the luxury of traveling a lot to the East Coast, I have heard about the amazing eats at Chinatown. And I'm a fan of the Fung brothers. I watch them constantly, especially when they do their YouTube series about like cheap eats in Chinatown. And I just love watching them go everywhere and try all these experiences and these exotic foods. And New York is like the epicenter of all this cultural melting pot. You have the Little Italy, you even have a Little Manila. You have the Hell's Kitchen, you have Brooklyn, Bronx, Queens, all these places that boast particular foods like the Brooklyn pizza, like what else? The Cuban food or the Jamaican food or the whatever Caribbean or Brazilian food. There's a little Brazil, a Korean town. So I am so excited to, to just, I know I'm not going to have a whole lot of time there. I have probably less than 6 days to fully experience, what New York eateries have to offer. But even just to get a taste of, some particular regions, I'm so excited.
And there's more to New York too, other than the it's a cultural melting pot, and there's so many you could try all these different cuisines, but you also have to try some of the, what New York is really known for. And yes, Kathleen, that's why I love living here in New York, because so many of the food options that you can have here every day, anywhere, in the city, whether it's in the city, Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island. You could take the PATH train. You could even eat in nearby New Jersey, and then you'll have different cuisines anytime, anywhere. And one of my favorite foods that I haven't seen, maybe in California they might have this, is deep fried momos, which is a Nepalese dumpling, and that's literally near where I live in Woodside. And it's funny that you also mentioned about Little Manila. Little Manila is also in my hometown of Woodside, and that's one of the more popular places where you could have really good Filipino food. So I'm proud of my New York roots, and I'm very proud to live in a city where I could have a food cultural adventure every day, anywhere. Now let's get down to number 2 on the ultimate bucket list to do in your 40s. And traveling is all about adventure. And one of the things that I want to do in my 40s, for as long as I don't have any broken bones, is some type of adventure travel where, well, I don't swim, so I can't do cliff diving. But I could do something adventurous like skydiving and bungee jumping, and let's see, hiking on a high trail for 7 miles or something like that. What is on your bucket list in terms of adventure travel? Where and what, maybe at what age that you want to do it in your 40s?
Oh my gosh, funny you should just mention that, because I just finished watching literally earlier, a few hours ago, on a whim. A friend and I went to go see the new Top Gun movie. And I don't know if you've seen it yet, but it was just so breathtaking, seeing all these airplanes, or, fighter, what is it, stealth bomber, F-14, whatever. Like, and suddenly it made me feel like, oh my gosh, I want to learn how to fly. And Tom Cruise still looks so good after, despite, like 40 years had passed since the original movie. But, as we were talking about adventures, like, I'm not so much like an outdoor adventure kind of girl, but what I really love is, I do love nature, and I love scenery. I love beautiful scenic vistas. Like, when I went to Crested Butte, Colorado, I was unexpectedly delighted and surprised, because my husband, he was actually going to go on a mountain biking trip with his buddies. And so me and another wife, we were like the 2 ladies that were there with them. And so all the guys did their thing. Me and my friend, we decided to just explore the little town of Crested Butte. And oh my gosh, this little town, so picturesque, nestled in the mountains, full of cultural art, and just, people, just relaxing, just walking their dogs and just saying hi to each other. And everywhere we went, there were art galleries, because, Colorado is just so beautiful and scenic, and everything looks like a painting. And then we went during the summer, so that's when all the wildflowers were out. So just unexpected, beautiful scenery everywhere. So like I was just really surprised by how much I fell in love with Colorado. And surprisingly, in that town of Crested Butte, there was a Nepalese restaurant, or I guess because the owners were like Sherpas. and that makes sense because, you know, we're in the high elevation Rocky Mountains, so probably that's, you know, they're, you know, they so they're used to the skiing, they're used to like that kind of environment. So there's some very delicious Nepalese restaurants that we encountered while we were there. So I mean, just places with beautiful scenery. I'm more of a fan, Tenny, of like culture and interacting with people. One thing that I would yearn to do, like as on my one of my major, you know, bucket lists, you know, that I hope I can accomplish one day. I've been obsessed with the history of the Polynesian islands. I'm amazed how a group of, you know, Polynesians were able to like just, you know, ride on a wooden boat across thousands and thousands of miles of Pacific Ocean, going from just navigating using the stars and the clouds and the direction of the birds to try to find one island to another, like coming from the Marquesas Islands, the Tahiti Islands, all the way to Hawaii, to Chile, like Easter Island, and all the way to New Zealand, like that whole Pacific Triangle or that Polynesian Triangle. I'm obsessed with their culture and their history. And one of my dream bucket list vacations would be, if I could afford it, would be to visit like Tahiti and see the beautiful Moorea Islands and the Bora Bora uh, island, and also to visit maybe like even the Micronesian islands. I'm obsessed with like finding these remote locations on a map and like, let's go there, let's find out what's going on over there. It's such a tiny little speck, but what's happening there? And so anyway, for me, that would be my dream bucket list. Sorry, I tend to ramble. Just, you know, the culture, people, interacting with them, knowing what the locals love, like where do they like to eat, what do they like to do for fun, you know, how do they interact with each other, what's a typical day for them, um, and and beautiful scenery.
It's funny, we went from adventure travel number 2, and then you just went on and discussed number 3, which is cultural travel. And I am a cultural lover too. I mean, I wouldn't be a teacher, right? And being a teacher, I've been a music teacher for a very long time. And one of my favorite things I love to teach about is about world music. And funny that you mentioned about the South Pacific is because I've actually taught South Pacific music to when I was working as an elementary music teacher. And one of the most fascinating things about the South Pacific culture is well, about the music. And I'm going to go into, well, I would consider New Zealand as South Pacific. And
Yeah.
what I liked teaching about New Zealand was haka. And that's
Oh, yes.
and about the Maori people and the traditions. And a traditional haka is actually performed in rugby games in New Zealand. And also, you mentioned about Tahiti and Fiji. I'm not sure if you mentioned Fiji, but
Oh,
Fiji's
yes, that would be part of that.
and Tuvalu
Pacific
and
Triangle. Yes.
Tonga. And you could also consider Hawaii, which is always on anybody's bucket list. I mean, people go to Hawaii for the poke and for the beach, but really immerse in the Hawaiian culture. That's also a great bucket list destination to do in your 40s. Even it doesn't have to be in your 40s. It could be any time of any time in your life, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s.
Yes,
And
I'm excited. I'm so excited you mentioned about music because actually what sparked the passion for learning about the Polynesian culture was a long time ago when I was a college DJ. Somebody gave me a disc CD of music from the South Pacific, from New Zealand, the Maori, the Fijian choirs, the Tahitians, their what is it called? Their the Tahitian drumming, you know, and their of course the Tahitian dances, and even like the Marquesas Island, which one of the one of the bands called Tevaka, they were the ones who eventually did the soundtrack for Moana. And so like I was just so thrilled with that. And so, oh my gosh, thank you for mentioning about the South Pacific music. Hearing these sounds like really sparked this curiosity of who are these people. And that's when I started learning about them. And I even moved to Hawaii. I lived there for 2 years, and I was just so so happy to be immersed in that Polynesian culture. And then I even learned how to do hula dance just so because I wanted to learn more of how they speak through body language, but and pass on stories. But yeah, but sorry, didn't mean to interject. But yes, thank you for mentioning about music.
Oh, and we're gonna get into music travels. That's gonna be number 4 on bucket list. And you and I are both music lovers. I know you played the violin for many years before starting out your career. So, is there any places that you want to go
Hello. Uh-oh.
where
Hello.
you want to just immerse in music?
Oh, wow. Okay. So
Oh,
to
yeah.
do okay, now you're back. Sorry. For at first the Zoom was hanging, but anyway.
Oh, was it
Oh,
hanging? Okay, let's do that again. I was like, okay, I'll reiterate the question. Um, it's a good thing that you mentioned about music. That's something that you and I have so much in common. We love music, and I know you've played the violin for many years before finally deciding on your career. Um, is there anywhere in the world where you want to go to where you just want to submerge in music?
wow. Okay, so there are three places. I'll mention them real quick. As I'm a fan of world music, I love samba music. Anything that has a rhythm to it. So Brazilian samba music, especially the kind that they perform during Carnival, like when everyone's like trying to compete or trying to show off their best samba dance moves and also their rhythmic drumming. That like I would love to immerse myself in that kind of world music. But being also a violinist, of course I'm also passionate about classical music. Um, Although it's not necessarily like the music capital per se, part of that classical music has me gravitating towards Europe, and I love Europe so much. I only had a chance to visit there one time. It was like a all in like in that one week had we got a chance to visit my best friend in France, and then we went to England. London was too short. We were only there for 8 hours. It was very short. Belgium, Amsterdam, but I would love to experience visiting Italy. I haven't been there yet. Austria, just the culture of like, those famous composers. And also Vivaldi is my favorite composer. Antonio Vivaldi is from Italy. And England, I could go on and on about England. I would love to visit England for an extended period of time, not just like for a few days, but I would love to actually experience going through the different boroughs of London and even climbing up north to Scotland and even seeing Ireland. Just one of my favorite classical music pieces, if you've ever had a chance to listen to it, it's by George Friedrich Handel. It's called Water Music, and this suite of 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 classical music was actually performed on the water in honor of King George. So that's why it's called Water Music. But back then they didn't have like sound systems. They had to actually perform it, bringing like those heavy horns and playing it like all along the water, the Thames. I believe that's the history of it. But yeah, so to answer your question, Brazil, Europe. Um oh, and the third one was New Orleans. I love the mixture of French, Creole, jazz, um, Cajun, um, Zydeco, that festive combination of music that also permeates in the food. It's like when you eat Cajun food, it's like a party in your mouth. And you listen to Cajun music, it's like a party for your ears. So those are my three top music places.
And it's funny that I haven't been to New Orleans yet, and that is on my bucket list because I'm an avid fan of jazz. I sang in a jazz vocal ensemble throughout my 4 years in college, and I also used to play jazz piano. I love the improv of jazz. I'm a big Louis Armstrong fan as well. And it's funny that you also mentioned Brazil. I've been to Brazil. There's Rio de Janeiro, and music, samba, and the sounds of bossa nova, and going to the beaches. I've been to Ipanema, which tall and tan, young and lovely, the girl from Ipanema. Who doesn't like Brazil? Who doesn't love Brazilian jazz and Tom Jobim? And and we're gonna segue into what my niche is as a travel advisor is Europe. And I love Europe and all the places that you mentioned about classical music in Europe, from London, and you want to go to Italy. You know, I love Italy. I just got back from Italy a month ago, and you mentioned Austria. I've been there. Europe is just an amazing place that everybody should go once in a lifetime, not even just one country, but multiple countries. And here's bucket list number 5. What is your top or on top of your list of your perfect European destination that you want to take during your 40s?
Oh, yeah, okay, all right. I can tell you that. Because I love France so much. It was beyond the Paris. I had the fortunate experience to have a best friend that lives, not in Paris, but in the north of France, where it's kind of on the border of Belgium and it's next to the English Channel. So like, that's why we were able to take the Channel Tunnel to England, because he lived right there. But it's near the city of Calais. But when I was in the north of France, there wasn't necessarily anything that remarkable about it. It was like, kind of a small village with a castle. But what I loved about it was just, we had a chance to live in his house. Me and my husband, we were there, and I had the opportunity to pick up his kids from school. And then there was a farmer's market. Like, we would go there and try these different selections of cheeses from the farmer, and oh my gosh, each piece of cheese was swoon worthy. It's like I was getting drunk on cheese, if that's possible, because every piece of cheese is so delicious. And then and just learning like just the little peculiarities of life in the village was so much more meaningful to me than trying to like go in front of like a tourist spot, taking pictures in front of the Eiffel Tower. Yeah, everybody does that. Yeah, of course it's meaningful, but just those little quirks of being able to live the daily life of France, and it was just wonderful. So I had a chance to visit Paris in the north of France, but this time I would love to visit the lavender fields of Provence. I know that the lavender usually grows like in the summertime, like between June through August, I think, and August 15th is their lavender celebration day, I think, because that August 15th, yes. And that's, they have like a lavender festival. One of the cities there, near in Provence, they have like all kinds of lavender products, from soaps to teas to like, whatever, even perfumes that contain lavender, often come from that region. And even like the monks that are there, they actually they have this way of like preserving lavender, and then it's used as an ingredient in soaps and perfumes and even food. So like just seeing, and I remember I had downloaded this app called Calm, and it's supposed to like make you relax and feel sleepy. And there's this story that an audio story by Stephen Fry called Blue and Gold, and that was the story of the lavender fields of Provence. And lavender is supposed to help you relax, but I couldn't believe even as a story it was helping me relax. but yeah, I would love to visit the lavender fields. And England, if I were to plan my perfect trip to England, it would be a 30-day trip. It would be like I would spend time in, because London has 32 boroughs, and I would love to at least set foot in each borough, and each one has its different characteristics. And then I would love to visit like the coast, just to see how the southwestern coast differs from the southeastern coast to the northern coast and to the Highlands of Scotland, because I am a huge fan of the series, the book and the TV series Outlander. And so everything that talks about Scotland in that series, I want to see all those places that, that were depicted.
And it's amazing how you talk about France and how much you love the French culture, because I'm the same way with Italy. I love everything about Italy, the food, the culture, the men, the fashion. Always and will always be on my bucket list. So we're gonna segue from bucket list European to Asia. You can't go to you have to go to an Asian country once in your 40s, right, Kathleen?
Yes, of course. For what I mean, I'm curious to know what yours would be.
Well, on my list, and I've been to the airport so many times, going as my layover going to the Philippines and they're reopening this one in June, is on my bucket list is Japan. And
Ah,
this, aside from Italy, I love the Japanese culture, the food, the fashion, the people. Um, it's I would just say on my list of cities, it's actually not Tokyo where I want to go. I actually want to go to Kyoto. Um,
ah,
and I'm more of like wanting to see not just what the populated cities, but more of learning about the culture and the history of Japan. And also, I actually want to go to Korea as well, thanks to that Netflix show that everybody tells me to watch.
which
And
one? There's a
also,
million.
yeah, and also you gotta love the Korean skincare, and I also love Japanese skincare, which is why those two are on my bucket list on my 40s. All about skincare, all about food, and just the culture itself. And you can't. I've done this when I turned 40, right before the pandemic. I love Singapore, thanks to Crazy Rich Asians, and that movie I would say actually inspired me, and that's why my family and I, we went to Singapore, is because we wanted to do everything that they did in the movie, and we did.
Wow. Did you
And
even play mahjong in that
oh, I
cafe?
didn't play mahjong though. That was the only thing that I didn't do, but we did. We did want to.
Did you try to recreate that wedding scene with the dress in the water?
Yeah. And actually, what the mahjong theme was actually in Penang in Malaysia, and that was also another place that I went to aside from Singapore. And Penang is also a great place to go in Malaysia for food too, and for affordable price. And that actually should
Ooh,
be those four places, Kathleen, because you love food. That actually should be on your ultimate bucket list in your 40s.
wow, wow.
And you,
I've been told. Okay.
and you also can't forget our native country, the Philippines, because why? It's more fun in the Philippines, right? And I know I'm trying to go back there. I love going to the Philippines during New Year's, because it's just the best time to go. It's the best time to go to Asia in general, is around December and around New Year's time, where it's very festive. And I think on my bucket list for the Philippines is where my mom's from, Ilocos Norte. I'd love to go there, and I'd love to go to Siargao, Cebu. Um, Palawan has been on my bucket list forever before it started getting populated. It's really true. It's really more fun in the Philippines. Don't you think, Kathleen? Is it really more fun in the Philippines? Have you been?
Well, yes, I had to get married in the Philippines, and I had to have my honeymoon in the Philippines because it was all that we could afford. But you know what? For $1,200, we were able to, me and my husband, we were newlyweds at the time. We thought we couldn't afford a honeymoon anymore because all of our expenses were spent on the wedding. But just the little gifts that people would give, like the cash gifts, 500 pesos, 1,000 pesos. We ended up with, like, I guess, an equivalent of $1,200. But can you believe that $1,200 was enough to get us a 1 week vacation, airfare included, and also hotels, and also breakfast and dinner. And it was to 3 islands. to the island of Palawan, Bohol, and Boracay. And that's just $1,200 for 2 people. Sorry, excuse my dog. Wait a minute, hold
on. And
on.
folks, that is Bechamel, her Kathleen's dog, who is making a little bit some noise there.
Yes, Bechamel, because I watched this movie. Well, anyway, about Philippines. Yes, it is more fun in the Philippines because everything was a lot cheaper. I don't know how fun it is with the pandemic situation, but people are still enjoying over there. And Tanya, I had this weird fixation with borders, and part of me, like, I wish if I could cultivate like my own trip and money wasn't an option and time wasn't a constraint, I would love to like visit. I would love to circumnavigate the entire Philippines and visit like going from the map, like going, like if this is the Philippines, like going from like here from coast
north
to coast
to south,
travel.
right?
Yeah, just to like circumnavigate like the whole Philippines and just visit every village that's there, just to kind of explore each culture, how it's subtle, the differences from one place to another as you're going up and down the coast. and
I
to
always
visit
wanted, yeah. I love I love going back. I miss going back. I miss seeing my family. And on my bucket list, my dream bucket list is actually to teach in the Philippines, and because teachers are well respected in the Philippines. Hello, mom. Can we hold your bag, mom? Yes, ma'am. We will do her homework. When you teach in America, when you tell kids to do their homework, they start retaliating and say, "This sucks. School sucks." Now,
Yes.
now we're gonna go into we talked about America, we talked about Europe, Asia.
Asia. I just wanted to mention, you've never been to Korea?
I've never been to Korea, the country, except the airport.
Well, the airport. Interestingly enough, you should mention that, Tanya. I just wanted to answer this real quick. I don't know if it's still happening, but when we were going to the Philippines, our layover was in Incheon Airport in Korea. And the airport at the time was allowing that if you have a long layover, you are allowed to have a free tour and tour guide. And so we had a chance to get out of the airport as long as we had our passports, our US passports, we could come in and out. And then we were able to get on a bus and go to the wet market in Incheon and try the original Korean fried chicken and with banchan. And that's like really like in the real like old school way. And then we were able to also take a subway or metro to go into Seoul, downtown Seoul, where we got a chance to see kind of like, I guess what would be like their sort of river walk, the Chonggang River or something like that. But I mean, I was just amazed that Incheon Airport at the time was like offering these free tours for people who were just on a long layover. Isn't that amazing? Like you could have a mini vacation within a vacation on your layover.
I love those. I love if I ever take a layover, I usually try to take a long one so I could navigate through the city. Although I haven't been doing that because I've been taking mostly nonstop flights because my mom's always traveling, and it's so hard to nowadays. It's so hard to travel with a old woman who slows you down. But she loves to travel. My mom's 79 years old, and she's probably been to more places more than I have. She actually should do this travel podcast because she has so much travel experience. Now,
wow. It runs in the family, I can see.
yes, the Samagi families are from my late dad, my sister, my mom. We love travel. Travel is such a huge part of our family culture. Now, one place that is on my bucket list, and here's number 7. We might cut it down from 10 to 8 for time purposes.
Okay.
But this has been on my bucket list since Lion King came out in 1994. I love African music. I've always wanted to go to Africa. From South Africa, starting apartheid, and then but really on my bucket list is going to a safari, and Serengeti in Tanzania is on my bucket list. What do you think about African safari?
Wow. Oh my gosh. That would be so amazing. Like just to see well, I mean, I feel a little bit scared to see like, lions, in person, but like just the idea of a safari, just the idea of being able to like be in touch with nature, and Africa is, gosh, there's like so many aspects of it that are just wonderful, like whether you're in South Africa or even visiting, because I have a lot of friends that came from Nigeria. I don't know how the situation is economically, politically now in terms of all the various parts of Africa, but to be able to go there, oh my gosh, that would be amazing. That is like the most epic exotic adventure you could have to be able to go to Africa.
And I think we can do it. We should go to an African safari together. Leave the husband. I mean, I don't have a husband yet, so we could do a girl trip to a African safari, and we have to do it in our 40s when we're healthy and able to
when our
walk.
knees are still working somewhat. When our knee joints can still kind of handle excursions.
Yeah, and I always wanted to see a bunch of hippos and elephants and giraffes and just say hi to them. Something I know about giraffes, Kathleen, is giraffes don't have vocal cords.
Oh, that's why you don't hear like a giraffe neighing or whinnying.
Yeah,
Oh, you just talked about hippos. Strangely, I was watching the new Netflix series hosted by former President Obama, and it's about nature. I forgot what it's called, but it's something about the earth where he focuses on like the wildlife. And there's a place in Africa where the hippos will go out into the beach and surf. And that was just so breathtaking. Surfing hippos. I mean, they really enjoy going out there and like riding the waves.
That's interesting. And
You check it out. Check out that video or that series on Netflix.
Oh, it's on Netflix. I was gonna see, was that on National Geographic?
Well, it's the name escapes me, but it's hosted by former President Obama, and it's like a nature film. I'll look it up and I'll find it. We'll add it to the notes of this podcast. But you talked about the hippos, and you were brought to mind the surfing hippos that I saw on the shores of this African country.
All right, we're gonna move over to Africa, from Africa to one more place before we end this podcast, the Caribbean. And that's somewhere that's close to you, Caribbean, Central America. And for a previous podcast, we spoke about the Caribbean and Costa Rica. And one thing I want to do, several things I want to do in the Caribbean and Central America. I'll mention the Caribbean first. Is the beaches. Have you been to the Caribbean, Kathleen?
Well, Tani, interesting you should ask that, because I just came back from a Caribbean cruise. So it was an 8-day cruise that left out of Galveston, and it touched upon the Key West, which, by the way, if you've never had key lime pie in the Key West, you're missing out. You gotta get key lime pie from the Key West. It's it's legit. It's amazing. It doesn't taste like the key lime pie they make here in Texas. But anyway, aside from that, the cruise visited the Bahamas, like Freeport, and also Nassau. But the Caribbean Cruise Line has a private island that they own. Actually, several. One of them that we visited is called Half Moon Cay. The water was unreal. I couldn't believe this water was like. I couldn't believe that it was a natural beach, because the sand was really white and the water was electric blue, like literally translucent, swimming pool blue, but it was nature. It wasn't fake. It wasn't dyed. It was like actual translucent electric blue water, and it was wonderful. I mean, the water was a little bit chilly because we were coming out of the winter months at the time, but it was just breathtaking how beautiful the water of the Caribbean was. I had a chance to mingle with the people of Freeport and also Nassau. Unlike my other peers on the cruise who paid for these excursions to visit Atlantis and all these other touristy spots, I was on a budget at the time, but I don't regret it because I had a chance to sit down with the people, the ladies braiding hair, and even like people serving a traditional Bahamian food, and and talking to them. They're wonderful, warm culture, very hospitable. But of course, the economy and the pandemic has gotten everybody down, but they're resilient. And they were sharing how, they're just trying to make ends meet by, operating souvenir shops or restaurants or even braiding hair. It's like $5 a braid. And so that's the Eastern Caribbean. I have been to the Western Caribbean, which includes Cancun, the Mexico, the Cozumel, Cancun, wonderful. Of course, it's very touristy. Unfortunately, my 10-year anniversary honeymoon to Cancun, it was supposed to be a 4-day trip, cut short because we were in the middle of Hurricane Delta. So suddenly the luxury hotel we were at was transformed into an evacuation shelter. So not fun. They weren't going to refund us because it was considered a natural disaster and they were not liable. So so part of it was spent in paradise and the rest of it was spent sheltering with 1,000 other people for 3 days in a hot convention center where people were snoring or coughing all night long. It was hard to sleep. Instead of eating our luxury, all-inclusive gourmet food, we were all on rations. So very memorable, unforgettable vacation of our experience in the Western and the Eastern Caribbean.
I haven't been to, well, I've been to, is Bermuda considered the Caribbean?
Yeah, I think so.
I've only been to Bermuda, but I've been to Caribbean on my mind because I've taught Caribbean music as a music teacher from Trinidad, Calypso, Salsa, merengue, Jamaican reggae. I spoke about Jamaica previously with Jessica Benjamin, where I said that's kind of on my bucket list because I'm a big Bob Marley fan. But it's good to know that your story about your 10-year anniversary, I know, number one, probably try not to go to Mexico during hurricane season.
Yeah. And no wonder the flights were so cheap. We thought, wow, that's so amazing. The hotel and flight is so cheap. Now we know why.
You know why. And just a cool factoid, Kathleen. Also, try to go to a Caribbean vacation where it's not on the hurricane belt, the ABC islands, like Aruba, Curacao, and Bonaire.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know there was an
ABC. That on my podcast.
Yeah. Wow, that's good to know. But now you got that song in my head. You said Aruba, Jamaica.
Oh, Kokomo.
Bermuda,
Bahamas. Come on, pretty mama.
Yes, and so speaking of,
we gotta go there during it's on our bucket list.
Gotta take it slow. That's where we want to go.
Yeah, where you want to go? We got the Kokomo.
Kokomo, which actually I don't think there was a real place called Kokomo. Is there a real place called Kokomo?
I have no idea. I'm gonna Google that. I don't know. The Beach Boys are just great songwriters, Brian Wilson and company.
Yeah. I think Kokomo maybe sprouted more after the song became popular. I don't know, but I think it's actually a place in the Key West that is formerly called Isla Gorda or something like that. But yes, but that song is so iconic. I love that song. It always puts me in a Caribbean relaxed state of mind.
I know I'd love to go to the Caribbean right now. just to get peace of mind in a stressful
Penny,
living in a
you should go
stressful
on a
city.
cruise. You should experience going on a cruise. If you haven't yet, if you want to experience what it's like to be pampered, like living in the lap of luxury, and your credit card getting charged a lot, that's go on a Caribbean cruise.
That's on my bucket list. I do want to go on a Virgin Voyages cruise. Um, Everybody I know, a lot of the travel advisors that I work with have all gone on a cruise, and I feel left out when they talk about their amazing experiences going on a cruise. That will be on. We could go on a cruise when we let's see. Let's try aiming when we're 46.
Okay, fine, that's a deal. That's
That's a
that's
deal.
in that's in 2 or 3 years from now.
Okay. Now, I mean, we talked about so many. I mean, uh, we tried to talk about 10 amazing bucket lists. I think we talked about more than 10, but now we'll get down to your experience as a traveler. Travel is all about self-discovery. What have you learned as a traveler?
So, important key things that I've learned as a traveler. I'm the kind of person who wants to bite off more than I can chew, and much to the dismay of my traveling companion. I now looking back, I kind of regret the fact that I tried to jam pack so many activities into the shortest period of time, to the point where the people I came with were complaining that they didn't really have fun because they felt really rushed. And when I look back on it, yeah, that's true. I did kind of rush everybody. And now one thing I've learned is I don't have to jam pack so many things into one experience, because sometimes I was of the mindset that I felt like, well, this might be the last time I'm going to be here. I need to try to see everything. No, you don't have to see everything. Take it slowly, and just know that if you weren't able to see it now, you can always come back later. But try to focus on the things that would bring you the most pleasure. Looking back on my European trip, I kind of regret trying to do so many things in one day. I should have taken the time to taste what fish and chips was like in London, or even authentic Indian food. Um, instead of trying to hop on the underground subway and try to see everything, like Big Ben, the Eye of London, the Buckingham Palace, and rushing back and forth. I shouldn't have done that. I should have just taken the time to breathe, inhale, and relax, because vacation is all about relaxing, enjoying, trying to make the most of your trip, but not stressing out if it doesn't all work out. So that's one thing I've learned is try to focus on a few things that you know for sure you must have. Everything else you can just come back for later.
And it's great that you mentioned that, because I think when you're in your 40s, you actually know how to, you have better time management, especially when you travel, because you experienced all the jam-pack, action-pack, squeezing everything in your 20s and your 30s. And then, when you reach 40s, you're like, you kind of say to yourself, I can't be doing that. I remember when I looked back during the time when I went to Hungary, Czech Republic, and Vienna, and my sister and I were going to try to squeeze in Munich and Salzburg, but we were just always on the run, like trying to soak in everything that we could in Prague, Budapest, and Vienna. I think we were only there for like 8 days, but we couldn't see everything. But when I look back in that trip, I'm just like, I could never travel like that in my 40s. I like to now, especially with Europe, I just like to go to one country. And if I'm only there for 5 days, like kind of what I did when I went to Milan and Lake Como, is just travel and to one city and one nearby excursion, and really just soak it in, because that's when you actually appreciate travel and its beauty and its surroundings. That's why I say, I think 40s is probably going to be the most momentous time to travel, because you get to understand everything, and you appreciate everything. And also, we're more financially stable in our 40s rather than when we were in our 20s and 30s.
Right. In our 20s, we were so limited. We were relying on free or cheap eats or whatever we could find. Like beggars couldn't be choosers. But in our 40s, we're more discriminating. We want to experience the best. And it's like it has to be high quality.
It's
Even if
true.
it costs a
And it has
lot.
to be luxury. Yeah, I'm done with staying in hostels. I want to stay in my 4 or 5 star hotels and eat my risotto with little gold saffron on it.
I think you kind of rubbed off on me because like when we were trying to check out hotels in New York, at first we were going to content ourselves with the 2 stars hotels, and now it's like it's not good enough. It
Yeah.
has to be like the bed has to look like really really comfortable with a duvet and like a city view.
That's
Like what
true.
happened to us?
Because that's what travel is all about. It's all about the memories. Don't even worry about your budget or how much you're going to spend or if it's too expensive. What you come out, you have to make the most out of life. You only live life once. YOLO, which is something that I just learned what that YOLO means. Keisha, if you're listening, yeah, I'm quoting you on YOLO, and I think it was Ornella too, or Anne. I don't remember who posted YOLO, and I was like, I just figured out what that means. But yeah, that's all about what travel is all about, especially in your 40s. Now, as we end the podcast, do you have anything else to say or any shout outs?
Well, any shout outs? Well, I don't necessarily have any shout outs. Well, you know what? I have to thank the people who kind of inspired me to travel. My friends Connie and Kimmy, they recently or they had come from New York actually, and I have to acknowledge my friend Connie because she didn't she went to New York only to watch a Broadway show or 2 Broadway shows, and I can't believe in a span of a day and a half she did so many things. And but of course she was in that zone where she her bucket list was to try to capture so many things at one time, but her main thing was just the Broadway show. And so like I have to give my hats off to her for like seeing so many things in a day and a half. I don't know if I can do that, but good for her. And she also actually some of the places she mentioned were things you were already mentioning to me too. So now it's confirmed to me like, okay, those places are legit because it came from both the Texas tourist and the New York local. And also like also my hubby, because he's going to be my travel partner. This time I told him when we visit New York, I would love that we could just enjoy like we did, like as if it was our honeymoon, and just discover and explore and really feel like we're kids again having fun. Of course, we're going to be there with our parents to try to help them ease their transition to their flight going to the Philippines. But for the remainder of the trip, when it's just him and me, I really wanted to just recapture that sense of adventure and excitement and wonderment, like the childlike wonder you have when you're younger and not so jaded by life, and like you just want to explore and have fun and just feel delight. I don't want to put too much pressure. I want that we can just just feel like so free and exhilarated and explorative, adventurous. Just discovering all the wonderful things that New York has to offer. I'm so excited, and thanks to you, Tenny, for like your amazing itinerary and also all of your suggestions and fine tuning my travel experience.
And thank you, Kathleen, for coming onto the podcast. It was amazing to hear your story, sharing where you want to go. I mean, we mentioned 10, but I think we probably name 1,000 ultimate bucket list travels around the world that we're going to do in our 40s. So thank you again. And anything else you would like to add or say?
No, thank you for having me. It was very refreshing to talk about our favorite travel places and bucket lists. So yes, I hope at sometime in the future we can explore a safari or a Caribbean cruise together in our not too distant future.
Okay, and we're around the same age, so we have about 7 years to go on that safari or a cruise before we both turn 50.
Then that
Okay.
will be like the golden years podcast or bucket
Yeah,
list.
the Golden Years podcast, we're gonna go to Israel.
Wow. And also the Egypt,
Egypt,
the
yeah.
pyramids of Egypt.
Yes. Okay. Thank you again, Kathleen.
Thank you, Tenny. Safe travels.
And thank you to all our viewers, because without your support, this would be impossible. Make sure you tune into Smart People Travelwise on PHLV Radio every Tuesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 noon Pacific. I'm Tenny Samagi, your host. Take care and safe travels.